Welcome to the Crunch Time YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and the concerns I have with them as they've lost 3 of the games they've played in the bubble, and it does not look good for them if they want to keep that 8th seed that they have right now. So I'm going to look at all 3 of the games that the Grizzlies have played so far and what they've really done bad and where they've gone wrong. So the first game I'm going to talk about is the first game they played, obviously, was against the Portland Trailblazers. They ended up losing to the Portland Trailblazers in an overtime game. They lost by 5, and it was a pretty high-scoring game. It was 135 to 140, and the Memphis Grizzlies really looked like they were going to win it at the end of the game. It really just dipped at the last 4 minutes, I believe. The last 4 minutes, the Trailblazers really just took over, and it felt like they were in control of the game, even if the Grizzlies had the lead. They let players like Carmelo Anthony hit a bunch of shots over them. CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard both had great games, and so did Yusuf Nurkic, who was coming back from a leg injury. He also played really well. Let's look at some of the individual stats on the Grizzlies side. And one thing that really stands out was Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks' poor shooting. They shot a combined 13 for 38, which is around 30 to 33%. That's not great. And they shot a worse 3 for 16 at the 3-point line. That's below 20%. But some players did have really good games for them, such as Jaren Jackson Jr. He had 33 points, and he shot 10 for 22, which is really efficient. That's, I believe, 45%, something around there. And 6 for 15 at the 3-point line, which is 40%. So Jaren Jackson Jr. was really efficient, had a really good game. But Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks really struggled, and which is surprising considering their matchups are Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. They're not known for their great defensive presence. So that was a bit disappointing. And then the next game that they lost was to the San Antonio Spurs. And this one hurt equally as bad as they're fighting for that 8th seed as well, or just to get into that play-in tournament. The San Antonio Spurs have actually been doing really well in the bubble, but it really would have been a big boost to the Grizzlies to get that win. They've lost to 3 teams that are competing to try to get into that 9th seed tournament, or just trying to get that 8th seed. So that's really concerning to the Grizzlies. As if they win all these games, they've pretty much locked it up. So let's look at the individual stats from the Spurs-Grizzlies game. The Grizzlies ended up losing by 2. So they've lost a lot of these games by very small margins. They really have just not been that great at the end of the games. They've just not been able to finish games up. They've lost 3 games by a combined 15 points, I believe. Or 17 points, actually. So that's really close. And let's just look at the stats for the game against the Spurs. So, Ja Morant had a much better game. I'll give him credit there. He shot 10 for 18. That's really efficient, really good for him. But as where the rest of the team wasn't able to step up. Kyle Anderson was 2 for 7 from his shots. That's not great. Dillon Brooks was 7 for 20, which is really disappointing. And he was 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. That's really not that efficient, and you don't want to see that. The Grizzlies also struggled massively from the 3-point line, as they shot an abysmal 23% from the 3-point line, compared to the Spurs' 41.4%. So they really were outscored there, and you can't shoot that poorly if you want to beat teams, because the worst, I believe, 8 or 10 teams, they're not in the bubble right now. So you don't have that many easy games to play. The Nets right now are beating the Bucks. I believe it's the end of the first quarter. Like, any team has a chance to beat you any day. And since none of these games played right now are series, it's It's just one game, so it's like regular season. And they really struggled defensively too. They let DeJounte Murray get 21 on them. DeMar DeRozan, they held him to 14, but he didn't shoot that much. He only shot like 10 shots anyways. Derek White and Lonnie Walker, they both held them to 4 of 12 shooting. That's really good, but they really let the bench outscore them, so that's disappointing. And now I'm going to look at the Grizzlies-Pelicans game, which was played yesterday. And then I'm going to give my takeaway on what I think the Grizzlies need to do to actually start winning again. Also, the Grizzlies do have, I think, one of the toughest schedules in the bubble, so it's not going to get much easier. So, the Grizzlies lost by 10 points to the Pelicans, and Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram both had really good games, and they really could not contain them. Jaren Jackson was 7 of 17 for 22 points, that's good, but Ja Morant was 5 for 21, which is really bad. And if you look at his 3-point shooting, that's worse. 1 for 10 from the 3-point line. That is just awful. No way around it. You can't shoot like that. And the Grizzlies shot a 27.9% 3-point shooting from the 3-point line, compared to the Pelicans' 37.9%. If other teams have over 10% higher 3-point shooting percentages than you, you're not going to win games. That's just really bad. They've really been struggling from the 3-point line, and they've not been able to hit their shots. If you look at it, their regular field goal percentage is not too far off. It's 45 for the Pelicans, 39 for the Grizzlies. Obviously, the Pelicans have a better margin. It's 45 is better than 35. 45 is better than 39, but it's still really close. It just doesn't make sense what the Grizzlies are struggling with, as they were a really good team in their regular season. Now, I'm going to go over the rest of their schedule and why this might present some problems. They play the Jazz tomorrow. They play the Thunder, Raptors, Celtics, and Bucks. Those are 5 very good teams. Like I said, you're not going to have many easy games here in the bubble. They said the Grizzlies have one of the most difficult schedules, and you can see it here. They lost to the Spurs, Trailblazers, and Pelicans, who are all right now the 9, 10, and 11 seeds. Right now, the Trailblazers and Spurs are 2 games behind the Grizzlies, and the Pelicans are only 2.5 behind. And their schedules are not as difficult as the Grizzlies, so the Grizzlies are going to have to step it up. They can't keep on losing these tough games, or even these close games. You can't lose them. You just have to hold on to the leads. Just need to play better and hit your shots. They've been struggling from the 3-point line, and it's been really disappointing. Lucky for them, the Kings haven't been doing great either, so that's not another team they have to worry about. But if the Grizzlies have to go in a play-in tournament with the 9th seed, I don't know if they'll be able to beat them even one game, because the 9th seed would have to beat them 2 games, they only have to beat them 1 game. And right now, it's looking like Portland and San Antonio are both within 2 games. I believe it to be within 4 games to be qualified and just be the 9th seed. So they're going to have to play one of those teams. And they're going to have to be careful, because they have a very high chance where they could end up losing a lot of their next few games. If they just go like 2-3 in their next few games, 1-4, that will really set them up poorly. And like if you look at the Spurs schedule, look at who they play. They play the Jazz twice, Nuggets, Rockets, and Pelicans. So them playing the Pelicans does help the Grizzlies, but they also have to play a few difficult games. It's for these teams in the 9 through 12 spot, what really matters is who can beat the good teams. Who can get hot and get to that 9th seed. I do believe the Grizzlies are going to stick as the 8th seed, and a team is going to have to beat them 2 times if they want to make it as the 8th seed in the play-in tournament. I don't think anyone can realistically catch up to them, but the Grizzlies are not playing good basketball right now, and they're struggling. So, thanks for watching, and let me know what your thoughts are on the Grizzlies, and comment below how many of the next 5 games do you think the Grizzlies will win. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.